All right. Good afternoon. 12:58. 1 o'clock. September 8th, 2020. Doing the 4 hour people. I know we usually do on Mondays, and I would blame it on Labor Day, but that really wasn't the reason. I had a little issues with allergies or something. I'm getting old. I never used to have allergies, and as a matter of fact, so that health combined with the holiday is why we're doing it today instead of yesterday. We'll try to get back on track next Monday. I guess that's next Monday, the 14th. Right. So for our people talking that black stuff, I'm your host, DreSmith, SmittyBanton. Every week we do a weekly book digest or weekly book. Now, it's not a review because I haven't read the books. Right? It's not a review. I have not read the books. It is a digest. So we're talking about the black books or the books that are of interest to black scholars and black intelligent people that have come out this week. So again, this is for our people. You can always catch it. You can catch past episodes and other videos that I've put out as far as the economic justice law review, as far as Afro-Atlantic and jurisprudence. Check us on Afro-Atlantic and jurisprudence at YouTube. Yeah. And so I am your host. We're going to go over 3 books, or every week we go over 3 books that have just come out, give you a little taste of them. And one of them this week is something that I'm putting on order. I am getting one of these books, Cast, The Origins of Our Discontent. I've been waiting since March for the new Isabel Wilkerson plate to drop. So it has. I'm going to give you a little excerpt from the just from the review, not from the book itself, but from a review. I heard it's on Oprah's book list, and I guess it's going to do pretty well. But I am particularly excited about it because as an economic justice scholar or a scholar on economic justice, my focus on racism does not deal with hatred. My view is that hatred, like slavery and others, are a tactic, but the goal is economic subordination in the form of loose racial caste. And so that's what I've been working on for the last 20 years as far as the law is concerned. So I'm very excited that Isabel Wilkerson, a Pulitzer Prize winning author, Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, the author of The Warmth of Other Suns, has taken this approach and published that book. As a matter of fact, let's get right into it. Okay, first of all, let me say, as always, I rep the book where I'm going to order it from. I'm going to order it from Hakeem's Bookstore, 210 South 52nd Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 215-474-9495. That's my home bookstore. Always give a shout out to Princess Y, Yvonne Blake, Chris Arnold, Miss Glenda, everybody, Nefertiti Moore, everybody that's involved with keeping the store open. It has been open since 1959, 61 years in the game. The second oldest black bookstore in the country. The oldest on the East Coast. The only one that's older was also created in 1959. That's Marcus Books in Oakland, California. So not only are we talking this black stuff, it's also our mission to save black bookstores, save all the black centers of black intelligence, right? Bookstores, art galleries, schools, academies, etc. So for this particular one, please, if you're feeling generous, go to GoFundMe.com/Hakeem's Bookstore and hook up my peoples. I have no financial interest in the store. None of it goes to me. I don't get paid for none of that. It's all to keep Hakeem's Bookstore in effect in beautiful West Philly. Give to Amalgam in Frankfurt. Give to Uncle Bobby's up in Germantown, right? Mark Lamont Hill. And I believe they're having some problems with vandalism, right? Folks busting out the windows of their store. So again, this is not just, I want a book. I'm a book person, but it's about creating centers of black intelligence for our community. Double whammy. We're increasing my human capital, but also our entire social capital, because we got to lean upon each other. right? So Hakim's Bookstore, 210 52nd Street, West Philadelphia, between Walnut and Chancellor. Get the free parking on Chancellor, right? 215-474-9495, Hakim's Bookstore. Hakim's Bookstore on Facebook. Hakim's Bookstore is on Instagram, all that good stuff, all right? All right, so now let's get back to give my peoples a shout out, get us back to the books. So the first book, again, I want to just jump right into the Isabel Wilkerson, Caste, The Origins of Our Discontent, Random House. And let me just read a little bit from the review. Some of the reviews are just so glowing, right? Instant classic. Probably. Again, I'm calling the store tomorrow, because they're open on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and Saturdays. I'm going to call them tomorrow to make sure I get my copy. All right. So from the review, linking the caste systems of America, India, and Nazi Germany, Wilkerson explores 8 pillars that underlie caste systems across civilization. 8 pillars. I'm interested to see what those 8 pillars are, including divine will, bloodline, stigma, and more. Using riveting stories about people, including Martin Luther King, baseball's Satchel Paige, a single father and his toddler son, Wilkerson herself, and many others, she shows that the ways that insidious undertow of caste is experienced every day. She documents how the Nazis studied the racial systems in America to plan their outcasts of the Jews. All right, hold on, let me pause right there. Because I want to talk about some things, just add a little editorialism. First of all, what are we talking about with caste, right? This review is talking about how caste is ill and it's part of white supremacy and racism, or at least I believe so. And it's been across time. What is caste? Caste is the categorization of peoples, not just by race, right? Because you can deal with race and ethnicity, whatever. But the character of the people is only the first element. So it is a characterization of groups of people, and then an assignment, right? An assignment of those people to certain jobs, right? It is an economic ordering system, right? And again, I insist that racism is an economic ordering system. So for those that believe racism is an economic construct, this should come very readily for you. But for those who believe racism is based on hate is just a tactic. The end goal is this, right? Is groups being assigned to occupational categories, with the dominant group, right, white folks or whomever, Brahmas or whatever, depending on what country you're in, being at the top with the most lucrative professions, whereas the black folks or the subordinated folks holding the lowest possible professions. In other words, somebody is going to have to clean up the shit. Somebody's going to have to be cleaning toilets while others are directing the shoot. Somebody's the captain of the boat while others are rowing the boat, right? And so race is an economic construct that places dark and race and colorism, right? They're opposite sides of the same coin, placing the darker skinned people at the bottom of the boat to row, right? Where the lighter you are, the more likely you are at the top, just giving commands in absence of physical labor. And we've seen that with COVID-19, we see the debilitating effects that it spares one ethnic group it subjects one group to a disproportionate amount of harm. And whether that be war on drugs, war on people, or the war against COVID, in America, black people are on the front lines. Hispanic people are on the front lines. Go to any restaurant. You know caste. All you got to do is go to any restaurant, or just any typical restaurant, and the people that run it are more than likely, not always, again, we've been attacking this caste system. That is what the civil rights laws, they haven't been towards necessarily liberation. They haven't been towards necessarily even equality. What they've been designed to do is loosen the caste system, right? To loosen the caste system, so that on top, even though you see the majority of restaurant owners are white, especially the elite ones, the quote unquote elite ones, that there are some black ones, there are some Hispanic ones, there are some Asians, but there is still a predominance, there is still a disproportionality compared to their population. And then again, who's the manager? Who are the waiters or the waitresses? Who are the bus boys and the cooks? right? And we see these divided along racial or ethnic lines. Um, this review seems to intimate that she goes beyond the idea of race and ethnicity and talk about bloodline, stigma. Again, it could be Christianity or religion, I'm sorry. Let me also say, there's been much made about Nazi Germany learning about caste and other forms of white supremacy from the United States. That the United States created a very special type of slavery, right? However, I have to push back on this because Europe did not have to be taught about racism. Yes, they may have shared tactics, and the ones that America created were special and particularly effective. However, let's not exaggerate this and make it seem as though the United States taught Europe and Germany about racism. All the United States Constitution, the Kentucky Constitution, the idea that all men are created equal except black people, except people of color, that is posited by David Hume. That is a Scottish philosopher. That is posited by John Locke. That is by John Stuart Mill. The idea that Black Africa had no civilizations and that Egypt was a white civilization is proposed by the German universities, right? Joseph Gobineau. And so hundreds of years prior to this exchange of ideas regarding caste, Europeans had gone to the coast of Africa to enslave people and cast them as inferior and justify this through their philosophies. So even if America, as Dave Chappelle says it, perfected it, even if America took it and especially slavery, America definitely, the United States definitely took slavery and the idea that you would be a chattel slavery, racial slavery, and that your afterborn children would also be slaves seems to be a novel invention of the United States. However, I just push back on this idea that Nazi Germany basically got its inspiration from slave owners in the United States. They had their own issues with race long before there was a United States, right? And it's very complicated. Shout out to Nell Irvin Painter, although I have a little bit of some disagreements, but the creation of whiteness, I understand where she's coming from. But race is very complicated. And let's also complicate this further by the fact, and this is a fact, Wilkerson talks about the caste system in America, the caste system in India, and the caste system in Nazi Germany, because she wants to talk about racial caste, and I support that. However, let's be honest in full. Caste was originated in Africa. The Egyptian civilization invented caste, or at least used caste to create a very great economic system, because we don't know whether Egypt got the inspiration for caste from their origins, which would be Nubia and Punt and the lands to the south. So the idea that occupations would be by bloodline, by father to son or mother to daughter, that it would be by certain folks, this was actually instituted in Africa as a way to make the economic system more complicated. So what happens in Egypt, and then that system is transported to the rest of Africa. It's called African feudal taxation. You don't have to take my word for it. You can go to Michael Tomowski, you can go to Henrik Clausen, and what the main ethnic group, whoever's running the central government, taxes each province a certain amount, but not amount of money or cash, right, or gold, right, and for several reasons that we're not going to go into right now. But they would tax them for whatever that area produced. And so that area would be required to produce cedar wood. Another area would be required to produce, to bring in elephants and ivory. Another province would be required to make wine, right? And as a matter of fact, the wine often came from the provinces controlled by Egypt as far north as Greece. silver vases from the silver mines in Greece and whatnot, or the Alaskan Islands as they were known at the time. So that is a form of caste, right? That each region, each group is responsible for producing a particular item to aid in the advancement of the economic system of the state or the nation, right? So that was created, it was originated, according to Herodotus, according to all the ancient scholars, it was created in Africa. It's spread throughout Africa. However, it's taken on different permutations elsewhere. In Africa, it was very rare, or it seems to be very rare, that it took on a racial connotation, that it took on a hereditary connotation. In other words, if you were captured as a soldier, yes, as soldiers, you would be put on the king's land and work the fields, whatever those fields were, right? But then you were then taxed, and then as a community, no different than any other province or area. And that's how you are inculcated within the empire or the state. In America, of course, this is a caste system that totally excluded. And theirs, yes, comes from India, instituted by the Aryan nation, right? You've heard of Aryans, right? And then putting black folks at the bottom of the caste. And so right now we are known in India, or black folks are known as the untouchables or the Dalits. And if you step out of caste, if you actually touch someone else in a higher caste, have sex or date someone, or disrespect someone, or even have something as silly as perhaps the shadows crossing over, can beget violence. If you may hear about gang rapes and other violence against women in India, and it oftentimes has to do with violations of the caste system, punishments relating to violations of the caste system, right? Now, I think it's interesting because I want some people to do some research on whether we know that the Aryans who conquered India instituted a racial caste system. It is not clear whether that caste system, which had originated in Africa, existed before the Aryans got there, then was reconfigured into one of a racial style, which seems to be the case in America, which seems to be the case in Nazi Germany. So I just want to make that point about caste, right? Caste in the ancient world was an economic system that was in fact developed by Africa. However, when we talk about India, when we talk about Nazi Germany, America, all the so-called Indo-European caste systems, they take on all of a sudden but not just a racial, but a racial and hereditary nature, where not only are you within this caste, but so are your children and your children's children and your children's children and your children thereafter. Let me finish off the review after that interruption. She discusses why the cruel logic of caste requires that there be a bottom rung for those in the middle to measure themselves against. She writes about the surprising health costs of caste in depression and life expectancy and the effects of this hierarchy on our culture and politics, right? We've seen this with COVID. So when you have black people on the bottom rung, and we are now the ones that have to face COVID. We are the ones that are treated differently. Well, that public health crisis in the black community can't be maintained, right? It can't be maintained. It creates a health crisis for the rest of the community as well. So the fact that you're leaving us out there to die also comes back onto the larger society. And the effects of hierarchy on culture. Finally, she points forward to ways America can move beyond the artificial and destructive separations of human divisions toward hope in our common humanity. Now, I support all that, and of course, but I also wanted to point out the idea of race and caste pre-existing European civilization, pre-existing white supremacy, to suggest that the absence of race, post-racialism, the absence of caste, perfect meritocracy is hopeful. However, I'm not certain that it's logical or attainable. The aspiration, I'm not trying to knock it, that we should also always be trying to create a more just society, wherever that society may be, wherever we may reside. And aspirations are required to fulfill that dream or wish. However, um, being racially realistic, as perhaps Derek Bell would say, requires us to recognize race, to recognize caste, and then to determine how to soften those things and how we are going to legally approach them and dissolve to the extent possible these differences, while at the same time respecting otherness, while at the same time respecting difference, right? The idea that we're all going to become one, well, who gets to decide that one culture, that one society? I know Jamaica likes to claim that they are out of one many people, but go to Jamaica and you know that's not true. It's an aspiration and it's a lovely one. My Jamaican people, y'all beautiful. But the idea that y'all are post-racial, the idea that it's a meritocracy between black, brown, Asian, white, etc., it's just not true. Now, maybe you'll get there before us. I don't know. I don't know. But the idea that we're going to eliminate, create a new post-racialism, I'm not ready to go there. And I think that there is some pushback on Ibram Kendi's how to be an anti-racist, because it seems to also be rehashing that desire. I don't want to call it a fantasy, but so let me just call it a desire, right? On the other hand, I am not. On the other hand, I am not one of Frank Wilderson's Afro pessimists. I believe Afrocentricity. I believe Black nationalism puts me squarely in the middle of those two poles, right? And allows me to be a lot more pragmatic. Okay, that's 10-15 minutes on caste. The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson, the Pulitzer Prize winning journalist who was the author of The Warmth of Other Suns, which is also pretty much a historical book. Very, very, very good stuff. All right. The second book this week that's come out that may be of interest to all of you, for people of black folks of high intelligence, or that just want something a little deeper than what you find in social media. Oh, and let me just shout out again, if you're looking for things that are deeper than social media, let me just always shout out the Karen Hunter Show. I had to slow down and say it and enunciate it clearly. The Karen Hunter Show, and specifically In Class with Dr. Carr. Dr. Gray Carr is the chairman of the Black Studies Department at Howard University. I am a graduate of the Howard University School of Law. I also taught there, and Dr. Carr also teaches a course there of race in the law. Please, if there's only one podcast for you to listen to, please check out In Class with Dr. Carr on the Karen Hunter Show. Right? It's on YouTube or whatnot. It will edify your soul. I'm trying to tell you. All right. So now back to the books. And also with these books, let me also shout out these books. I get most of these books, not all of them, but from the Journal of Blacks in Higher Education, www.jbhe.com, the Journal of Blacks in Higher Education. Every week they put out a weekly book list, right? So I add on to those, but we definitely want to hit those each particular week to know. For nothing, if nothing better, I need to know just what is the new stuff coming out. I'm not going to be able to read them all, right? I hope to read at least one a week, but maybe that might even be a little ambitious, given some of the other things that I have to work on. But at least being aware of the books that are out there, the movements that are out there, the people, the scholars, right, that we should be privileging and praising. Right, Journal of Blacks in Higher Education. Shout out to you all. All right. So the next book is Conversations with Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Right, you know the author. She's the author of many, many, many good books. Half of a Yellow Sun. Right, that came out back in 2006. Right, so you're very familiar with this author. African feminism, and I am just so excited to hear more about the feminist take coming from African women, because with all due respect to all my sisters in America, I look, and this is, and what I'm about to say, it may be demeaning to my sisters in America, but it is also demeaning to my Black nationalists in America, my Afrocentric brothers and sisters in America. We are within a more intense system of white supremacy than perhaps other places in the world. I'm not afraid to say that. It's not all the same, right? Yeah, I mean, maybe strategically we want to treat each other the same. We don't want to compare my blues against your blues. That's not very productive. But at the same time, as a scholar, I have to recognize that things are not always the same. So I'm very curious, and even if they're not the same, that doesn't always mean everything is better, right? It could just be different. So I am very curious to hear about feminism, about the role of women from a society, from a woman who is from the continent that is traditionally matriarchal, which is traditionally matrilineal, but hasn't been for the last 300 years or 300 years or so, right? That has been Europeanized, has been Arabized, right? Islam, Christianity, these are patriarchal societies. They are patrilineal property successor societies. So it's just very interesting to me to hear from a woman who is coming from this context, which is wildly different than the one that I am from, and from the scholars that I know and have affection for. Not to say that anyone is right. I just want to hear these perspectives coming from different places. So again, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This is not a book of hers. It is a book about her, right? Which again, it signifies your largeness, right? Last week, I think we talked about books talking about Octavia Butler. Yes, right? Certify her largeness. So Daria Tunka is collecting interviews, collecting things about Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie to discuss, right? Edited by her. So there's other authors in there as well. Now, as far as Ms. Adichie is concerned, she is not only the author of Half of a Yellow Sun. Prior to that, her earliest book is called Purple Hibiscus. Her third book, the one after Half of a Yellow Sun, The Thing Around Your Neck. I'm very interested in that book because I don't wear ties. Right? I haven't worn a tie since 1995. I can keep food, I can keep soup off my shirt without the use of a tie. And so I don't understand the purpose of it. And when I hold it like that, it's just too much like a noose. Now, I may be too much into symbolism, but okay, that's fine. Just let me know, what is the actual purpose of the tie? And sisters, I know it looks nice. I get that. So is a pocket square, so is a fly hat or whatever. But I just don't know the purpose of the tie. And for those that wear ties, have at it. Not just purple labels, all that. It does look fly. You know what I'm saying? All right. Her book after The Thing Around Your Neck, Americana, 2013. And now she's also published two books that are a collection of essays. Right, a collection of essays. We Should All Be Feminists, 2014, and Dear Ajaweli, or A Feminist Manifesto and 15 Suggestions, published in 2017. Right, so this one is 3 years later. A very important scholar, very, very important person to know. Not just the name, right? Who are these fabulous scholars and the people that are reading all around the country and all around the world? But one of them is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. All right, last book, and this one is very timely for the passing of Senator John Lewis. His Truth is Marching On, John Lewis and the Power of Hope by John Meacham. This is a Random House book, just like Cass, the book by Isabel Wilkerson. So shout out to Random House for publishing books of interest to Black folks. A little something from the book. Drawing on decades of wide-ranging interviews with Lewis, John Meacham writes of how the great-grandson of a slave and son of an Alabama tenant farmer was inspired by the Bible and his teachings in nonviolence. Reverend James Lawson and Martin Luther King Jr. to put his life on the line in the service of what Abraham Lincoln called the better angels of our nature. From an early age, Lewis learned that nonviolence was not only a tactic, but a philosophy, a biblical imperative, and a transforming reality. Wow, that's deep. That's deep. So shout out to John Lewis and shout out to the author of this book, Professor John Meacham. Respect to John Lewis. I am, as a black nationalist, of course, I have political differences with Brother Lewis, but I always say, a part of being of the black nation, part of the three most important things about black nationhood, right, is to better educate ourselves and our children. I have no doubt that John Lewis did that, to start and patronize black businesses and institutions. I don't know about businesses, but I'm pretty sure he probably started or at least participated within a lot of black institutions. And then to stop unduly criticizing each other. I've not heard John Lewis say bad things about Malcolm X or Kwame Ture. I've heard other people around him say it, but I ain't heard it from John Lewis, and I'm not going to say anything bad about him. So all I'm going to say is nonviolence. I absolutely agree and understand it as a tactic, as a strategy. However, I do not adhere to it as a philosophy or as a biblical imperative or as as far as transforming my reality. We are outmanned, we are outgunned, we are taking a moral position as far as subordination is concerned, or at least civil rights activists are. And to the extent I am helping them, I have to accept that. So if that is the case, nonviolence is strategically consistent with those three things. If those three things are not the case, then, well, you know. All right. So the three books that came out this week of interest to black folks, black scholars, black people: Cast, The Origins of Our Discontents, and that is going to be on my bookshelf. But look, I got to finish. I have not finished The History of Africa, Molefe Asante's Afro-Pessimism. I've gotten deeply into it, but I haven't finished it. This book right here, African Dominions, Michael Gomez. Lord, I can only read 10 pages of it at a time because it causes me to think so much. So don't feel bad if you're like me, if you got stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of books and you're not able to get through them all. You do what you can. Do thy duty that is best, leave it to the Lord the rest, straight up. All right, so Cast, The Origins of Our Discontent by Isabel Wilkerson. Conversations with Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, edited by Daria Tunka. And then also His Truth is Marching On, John Lewis and the Power of Hope by John Meacham. As always, we're going to close this by asking all you, don't just save Hakim's bookstore. We're going to save all the centers of black intelligence: bookstores, schools and academies, museums, galleries, archives, wherever you may find them. Please support them. Create them and ask for my support. I will try my best. We'll big it up on this channel if we can. Right? Because in the end, once again, our liberation requires us to better educate ourselves and our children. Start and patronize black business institutions. Stop and duly criticizing each other. You do those things, and you black to me. You black enough to me. Ain't nobody blacker than you. If we accumulate human, social, political, and financial capital, right? That is the revolution that will never be televised. See you guys next week. Hotep.